You know, when we think about hacking, we usually picture some kind of brute force attack, right? But what if we looked at it completely differently? What if we saw it as a meticulous detective story? In this explainer, we're going to walk through the ethical hacker's process, not as an attacker, but as a digital detective cracking a case.
So where do we start? Well, we start with the #1 mystery every digital detective faces: silence. You send out a ping, a little call into the digital void, and you get absolutely nothing back. And your first instinct, right, is to think, well, that's a dead end. This thing is a fortress. But this quote, this is the first rule of investigation. You never, ever make assumptions. Silence isn't a wall. It's a clue.
Okay, so we're standing at our virtual crime scene, and it's quiet. A little too quiet. So what does that silence actually mean? Are we looking at a misconfigured network? Is there a firewall just playing games with us? Or is it something else entirely? See, a professional investigator doesn't just guess. They start a slow, methodical process to turn that silence into a story.
And you can really see two totally different ways of thinking here. You've got the rookie, who just starts panicking. They're throwing every tool they have at the wall just to see what sticks. All that does is create a ton of noise, and honestly, it contaminates the crime scene. But the pro, they're calm. They start with the absolute basics. Is my own connection okay? Did I type the address right? They patiently work through a checklist. And that methodical approach, that's what leads to the first crucial piece of evidence.
All right, so let's talk about gearing up for the case. A good detective doesn't just show up and start poking around. They prepare. They make sure they have the right tools, the right authorization, and the right strategy before they even get started.
And yeah, this is exactly what that preparation looks like. I mean, think of it as your pre-flight check. Is your own system set up the right way? Are your credentials all good to go? Is your connection stable? It sounds so basic, I know, but skipping these checks is like a detective driving to a crime scene and realizing they locked the keys in their car. You've stopped the whole investigation dead in its tracks before it even begins.
Okay, so the basics are handled. Now you've got a big decision to make. And this isn't just about what tools you're going to use, but how you're going to appear to the system you're looking at. So the question is, which lens will you use to view the scene?
And this is so cool because it takes a really technical choice and turns it into a fundamental investigative strategy. Are you going to use the wide-angle lens and just look like any other device on the local network to get that broad, natural view? Or are you going to pull out the microscope, isolating your machine for a super-controlled, focused examination from the outside? Your choice here really dictates the entire feel of the investigation.
And this is absolutely critical. It's what we call the ScanScope sanity check. Are you 100% positive you have the right address? What are the exact boundaries of your investigation? And, most importantly, do you have explicit written permission? This is literally the digital version of a detective double-checking their search warrant to make sure everything is legal, professional, and on the level.
Okay, our gear's ready, our warrant is checked, we are ready to make first contact. But this requires the most important mindset shift for any aspiring ethical hacker. You have to move away from an attacker's mindset and into one of pure evidence collection.
So here's the trap a lot of people fall into, right? The rookie view. They find an IP address and they immediately think, yes, the attack begins. They see that first successful ping not as a piece of information, but as the first shot fired in a battle.
But here's the thing you absolutely have to get. You are not an attacker. When you find that first IP address, that first open port, it is not the start of a fight. It's the first clue. You are a digital forensic specialist, carefully, quietly, and methodically collecting evidence, bagging it up, and tagging it for later. That's the job.
All right, so we've got our first few clues in hand, and we've got the right mindset. Now it's time to actually start building a profile of our target. We need to get our findings organized and figure out just how deep this investigation really needs to go.
Now, it's tempting to just jump on Google, right, to see what other people have found. But hold on. This is what we call intel prep. What IPs have you actually confirmed? What services do you know are running? What versions can you identify? Getting your own facts straight first is key because it keeps you from getting biased by what others have found. It makes sure your investigation is based on the reality of your specific case.
And this is how the pros figure out just how deep to go. It's kind of like a coverage map for your investigation. Is this a Tier 1 job, just a quick look-see for the obvious stuff? Or is this a Tier 5, a full-blown forensic analysis, where every single file gets scrutinized? Knowing the depth you need saves a ton of time and focuses your energy where it's going to matter the most.
Okay, we've come to the last, and I mean this, the single most critical part of all this. It's the discipline that separates a good investigation from a great one. And it's not about some clever exploit. It's all about building an unshakable case file through meticulous documentation.
And this quote just says it all, doesn't it? Look, our brains are weird. We forget things, we make up stories to connect the dots. But good notes, they are objective. They're your source of truth. They are the bedrock of your entire case, because they separate the cold, hard facts from the story you might accidentally tell yourself later on. So what does an unshakable record actually look like in practice? Well, it's got to be time-stamped. It needs to include the exact commands you ran. And I mean the full, unfiltered output from those commands, plus your own observations right then in that moment. This isn't just about helping you remember things. It's about creating a professional, auditable record that can be defended, reviewed, and relied upon by anyone. It is your case file.
So think about it. You've gone from just staring at a silent, blank screen to building a complete, rock-solid case file. You prepared your tools, you checked your warrant, you collected clues, and you documented every single step. The real detective work is done. Your case file is ready, the facts are clear. So the only question left is, what truth are you gonna uncover?